So why posture? Why did I decide to really specialize in that area? I came out with a kinesiology degree, and I decided to take that. I was at SFU, and I played football at SFU. I intended to become sort of a team therapist, and then I sort of saw that role while I was playing football and realized that didn't work for me. So I decided, I always liked training. I enjoyed training my friends and helping my friends in the gym. And so I decided to take my kinesiology degree, which was almost as long ago as Wendy started doing this, and take it into health and fitness. And where it left me was, and Clyde had a great slide for this as well, on that last core exercise, I was called a personal trainer. And although I understand the value of a good personal trainer, going through that university degree and coming out and being called a personal trainer, when I knew that if somebody called me a personal trainer, or my spouse or girlfriend at the time or whatever introduced me to somebody and said, "Oh, this is Rob, he's a personal trainer," it just, and I wanted to say, "Well, I'm a kinesiologist," except the people would look at me and go, "Okay, well, what's that?" And you're just trying to sound important. But to me, there was a big difference. And so what I did when I started my career, I guess 18 years ago, was I really decided that I wanted to establish myself and our field, and put a level of professionalism on that, and use my degree, even though the term I used to say was a glorified personal trainer. Because I was personal training people, but I wasn't. I was applying the knowledge that I'd gained in university, and also the knowledge that I'd gained from working with other practitioners. So, what I did at the time was I tried to build a network. I tried to start working with as many practitioners as I could for the benefit of my clients. So I'd be communicating with their chiropractors or their physiotherapists or their massage therapists, and I really started to try to look at their bodies in a critical way, and to try to identify where the weaknesses or the imbalances were coming, or where their alignments were off, and communicate as much as possible with the other practitioners about that. And that was really how I started to expand and specialize in the area of posture. What I'd like to do first, before I discuss this, is you guys have all been sitting for about an hour. Now, we all know that sitting isn't the best posture, so if everybody could just stand up right in front of their chairs for me. So I've got a feeling that probably most of you felt some stiffness, knees, legs. I see all the stretching going on. So sitting in that position for the last hour, which was an atypical, asymmetrical position, you're all rotated to the left, etc. Most of you are happy to turn your head to the right. So everybody look to the right for a second, okay? Good. So there's probably some neck stiffness. Now look back this way. So you held a posture that wasn't ideal for about an hour, and when you changed that posture, you felt the results or the ramifications of holding that posture. So I'm just going to let you stand for a little while longer. I do this in almost every group that I speak to, and the numbers are almost the same, but I'd like everybody who's ever had a pain syndrome, a dysfunction, a performance compromise, anything negative that they would relate to their posture based on your own knowledge, I'd like you to put up your hand. So anything as far as pain syndromes is pretty classic. We're looking at 80% of the room. So keep your hands up, for, if you don't mind, the people who've had that. Now what I'd like you to do is leave your hand up if you've ever had a good, thorough posture evaluation where you were educated about your posture. If you haven't, go ahead and put your hands down. So that's amazing, because that's probably, go ahead, everybody can drop their hands now. So there was a pretty large group of people in here who relate posture to some problems they've had, which means you're educated about the importance of posture. But when I asked you, about half the people who had their hands up put their hands down when it came to education. And usually when I do that in a group of this size, it's about 80% of the people have an issue, and about 5% of the people have ever had anybody assess and educate them about it. So go ahead and have a seat. Let things circulate a little bit. We've got lots of educated people in here. I don't think anybody will argue the fact that the human body will operate and function its best when it's in its own natural neutral alignment. Now, neutral is different for everybody. Not everybody has the same structure. But if you have posture that is compromised, say significantly compromised, your posture, as we saw in some of Clyde's slides, will become your structure. So your structure changes. Then what happens is your structure affects your function. So if my head's forward, that compromises my cervical spinal curve, and it's going to affect my range of motion. So that affects my function. Now, the reason that we're all here and the reason that we come together as a group to screen these athletes is based on performance. Well, if you have compromised function, clearly that's going to affect your performance. So I like to make that posture performance right there. So is this going to jump for me? There we go. So what do I do? You're going to hear, you heard Clyde, you're going to hear every one of these people today use the term posture. There's, it's important, and you're going to hear everybody talk about it. Personally, what I've done, I'm not doing anything that these other practitioners can't do. But what I've decided to do is specialize in that. And I like to use the example, there was lots of great restaurants serving great cups of coffee before Starbucks came along and said, we're going to specialize in coffee. There's room to specialize in this because there's enough people that want and need coffee that we can try to be the best at this. Whether you're a Starbucks fan or not, I don't know. I'm not even a coffee drinker. But I've decided that there's enough room to work with enough unbelievable practitioners. And if I specialize in this and I do it really well and I develop not only assessment protocols, but treatment corrective management protocols that are unheard of, that complement what these other practitioners do, there's more than enough people, as you saw, that have issues with their posture that maybe don't know what to do about it, that I think we'd really like to help. And there's a good chunk of my team of practitioners, chiropractors and kinesiologists that are in here today. And it's important to me that we work together as a group, which is what this functional screening process is all about. So when we do posture screens, it's a pretty simple process, but the plumb line in the grid when we do the initial assessment is critical. So I'll assess, I'll line the athletes up, we'll take the photos, I'll do a side standing starting posture, and I'll go up and I'll educate them about getting into a better posture. So right there, they're learning. I'm teaching, I'm coaching, I'm showing them what parts are important. Then we'll go and we'll take them to the laptop, which is right there. They walk off the screen and they walk over and they look at their images on the laptop. And the number of times I've heard, wow, or oh my God, or I didn't know I did that. Bam, we just got through to them. We just got through. They may have had 24 different injuries treated by a dozen different practitioners who are brilliant practitioners, but I just got through. I sunk something in that I know that I'm now going to get them to pay attention to. So this young man is, the photo on the left in September of 2008 was when he was on the Whitecaps residency squad. And I went up and it was the first screening I did with SportMed BC. And I was all excited. Wow, I'm in a room and I'm talking with all of these amazing practitioners who I've known of and heard of for a long time. And I took these photos of these guys and I think, I showed it to my wife and she goes, they look the same to me. But, I think there's a lot of probably discerning eyes out there. But if you can take a look at those two photos, the photo on the left in September and the photo on the right in February. Now, I apologize for the boxer shorts hanging out. Now, every time I take a photo, I tuck those away just in case I want to do this. But most of the people, can you see the alignment concerns on the left? You can see the plumb line down the center of the back, and you can see what's going on. Now, what I've done is I've highlighted some of those things and just tried to show how unlevel his pelvis was, how curved his spine was. And so what I did with him, I had 3 minutes with him. And we did this process, and I showed him the photos on the left, because the one on the right wasn't taken until 5 months later. But I showed him the photos on the left, and I said, look, you are a very promising young soccer player. You want to be aware of this. And he was genuinely interested. showed genuine concern. What do I do? And I said, well, okay, I've got to screen all of these other guys now. And there was some other anterior, posterior compensations and everything, but he took a keen interest in what we were doing. He came to me at the end of the whole screening process and said, is there anything that you can show me? And I showed him, I think I showed him 2 exercises, which goes to, you know, what Wendy mentioned and what Clyde mentioned, just like don't overwhelm them, just give them a couple of things. And I went away and he went away. In our roundtable at the end of the assessment, I had the opportunity to show, well, we didn't have the photos up, but to talk about my findings with the other practitioners. From that point on, and other than making a concentrated effort to get his photos in the hands of senior Whitecaps management, I sent them directly to Bobby Lenarduzzi and said, you want to look out for this young guy because I know he's very promising. I didn't have another hand on him for 5 months. In February, he was on the men's team, and he was there again, and I thought, great, I get a chance to see, you know, where he's at. And he came up to me even before that, you know, and talked about and said, oh, I've been doing the exercises, and I thought, that's amazing, that's wonderful. And I knew he'd been doing really well playing-wise. And we took his photos, and it blew my mind. I was so surprised in that 5-month period without any ongoing intervention by me, and I wasn't sure of the amount of intervention by the other practitioners, the strength and conditioning team and the athletic therapist and the physiotherapist, but the change in his structural alignment in that 5-month period was dramatic. And that was with so little intervention, because he took a keen awareness, because he followed through independently on the exercises after seeing his photos, after me sinking that one little point in there. And I know that his practitioners were aware of it and probably addressed it as best they could, and the amount of change. So if we look at him, where is he going to be more functional? You know, on the right or the left? And clearly it's on the right. So if we go to side standing posture. This is a young lady. She does a lot of martial arts, etc., that I work with. If we see the change in her, right, and I'm going to see, I think I can scroll back. Oh, that went forward. So there to there, there to there. You see the change. It's a dramatic change. So when I had her in for a screening, and she's not my typical client. She came in privately on her own. She's 23. She's, you know, and I showed her the photos, and she went, "Doesn't matter the cost. I want to. What do I do? What do I do?" So worked with her ongoing. But I wanted to show this because a lot of you are working with young athletes. Posture, sure, we're talking about performance, but posture is about image. It's about their health. It's about their performance, but it's also about their confidence, and that's going to carry over into everything they do. And it's going to carry over to when they walk into school. It's going to carry over dramatically. So if you can take a look at them, remember that it's about performance, but look critically at the young athletes that you work with. And remember that their future and the health in the future is going to be determined by how we look at them now and how we approach them now. And so Bobby Lenarduzzi has a hip issue that the number of times I've heard him say, boy, I wish I'd heard about this back when I was playing. And Coach Tater Thordarson has a neck and shoulder issue that the number of times he said to me, boy, this is so important. I wish I'd, you know, known about you guys, or we'd had people doing this back, you know, way back when. We are all in a position to influence these young athletes now. And I know these two guys, if they were standing right here, would say this is a key critical component of this to make sure that they're not struggling with the injuries. And you can't guarantee it, but this is my 8-year-old. Well, he wasn't 8 years old there now.